For now, it's time to hop across the desk, and Catherine Viette joins us once again. This time you're taking us to the international papers and the American presidential candidates dominating the press. This time we're turning our attention to South Carolina.
That's right. The dust has sort of settled after New Hampshire. We know who the two big winners were: Donald Trump for the Republicans, Bernie Sanders for the Democrats. And the Republican field starting to shrink, Chris Christie dropping out, Carly Fiorina dropping out. The New York Times is reporting that it's going to be a bare-knuckle brawl in South Carolina for the Republicans. Says that the fight there is shaping up to be two parallel battles. The first between Donald Trump and Ted Cruz, the anti-establishment duo, and then the other is between the three establishment-friendly candidates, Marco Rubio, Jeb Bush, and John Kasich versus Donald Trump. It says Rubio needs to recover from his fifth-place New Hampshire finish. Kasich needs to prove he's not a one-state wonder after doing well in New Hampshire, and Bush needs to keep up the momentum. The Times also adds that South Carolina has catapulted the winner of every primary here since 1980 to the presidential nomination. This is on the Republican side, with the one exception of 2012 when Newt Gingrich beat Mitt Romney.
Now, the Washington Post editorial board has been weighing in on the campaign, haven't they?
Yeah, they have, the Post here, not mincing words, saying that the utter ugliness of Donald Trump's campaign should scare us all. Says the big wins by those two anti-establishment candidates are prompting conversations about their similarities. We're talking Bernie Sanders, Donald Trump. Says that both of them offer convenient scapegoats and simple-sounding solutions. But they're dangerously, if seductively wrong, according to the Post editorial. But at least Sanders' platform is well-meaning. Trump's proposals are preposterous. He's mocking the democratic process and not engaging in it, and he feels no obligation to explain how he would carry out his ideas, and he doesn't even care if what he says is true.
Let's take a slightly different perspective on the campaign now.
That's right. We're going to stay with the Washington Post for this one, and at this point, they've turned their reporting on to foreign journalists who are covering the American primary race and what it's like for them. The process a little different. So the Post interviewed a German reporter, Matthias Kolb, and he says that his impression of the U.S. primary season is a bare-knuckle brawl. Says the hostile comments are also a bit of a shock, and says that as a foreign journalist, it's tough to get access sometimes to candidates because, well, you know, there aren't many voters in Germany.
Well, someone else might be throwing their hat into this already crowded ring. Who's that?
That's right. We've been hearing a bit about Michael Bloomberg possibly deciding to make a bid as an independent. And this from The Independent in the UK. They're running through sort of possible matchups. And it says that, you know, if Bloomberg does put his hat in the ring, he could possibly trump Trump. He's a billionaire, successful businessman, but he has political experience as being mayor of New York. And The Independent asks, who knows how a strong independent might skew this race? Let's hope we're about to find out.
Let's move on to another story now. This is a new report with some shocking figures about the Syrian civil war.
Yeah, the numbers are really unbelievable. So according to a report that's been published by the Syrian Center for Policy Research in the Guardian newspaper, 11% of the population has been killed or injured in the conflict. And it also says that the current death toll now stands at 470,000, and that's almost double the figure of 250,000, which the UN had been using until it stopped collecting statistics 18 months ago. Now, world powers are set to meet in Munich today to discuss the crisis, and I'm sure, no doubt, these figures will be at the top of their minds.
And we're going to finish up across in Nigeria. The president there finding himself in hot water for being too frank in an interview.
That's right. This is kind of a funny story. Mostly we're used to politicians speaking in, carefully scripted sound bites. And here he's on the hook for sort of, speaking too frankly. The interview ran last week in Britain's Telegraph, and the reporter who interviewed him has written a follow-up article to this because this just blew up all over social media. The reporter was accused of misquoting the president. So I'm going to paraphrase here that offending passage that has everyone so upset. It says that it's hard for Europeans and Americans to accept Nigerians because of the number of Nigerians in different prisons all over the world. So this sort of spanned a hashtag, Nigerians are not criminals, a lot took it to mean that, with the scams, the email scams, all of this, that's sort of the reputation, and that Nigerians were offended at being maligned in such a manner. Plenty of ink spilled in the Nigerian papers, as I was saying. One brave columnist actually, though, saying that maybe the president wasn't wrong, as corruption is a big problem in Nigeria.
I'll have to check and see how many Nigerians have emailed me offering me my share of £12 billion.
I think everyone's got one of those emails.
What are several? Lots of money spreading around. Thank you very much. Catherine Viette with the International Press Review this morning. Steve